Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 23rd and tonight's movie is The Vigil. There is no shortage of horror movies with a lot of Catholic themes, but this is a movie where Orthodox Judaism takes the spotlight. Apparently there's a tradition when a part of the Orthodox Jewish community dies, where for a certain amount of time someone has to watch the dead body and protect it from evil spirits. This movie is about a young man who has to do exactly that, and things do not go smoothly. They make sure to let you know that this movie comes from the same studio that made The Babadook, and yeah, that is something you should flaunt. The trailer is giving me hope for this movie. It reminds me of two movies that I enjoy. The Conjuring, The Conjuring in general, and The Autopsy of Jane Doe. However, it does do that thing that modern horror movies do, where there's like no light at all. I saw a meme where it was like more horror movies should be like Midsummer. Not because of the content, but just because it happened during the day and I can see what I'm looking at. This seems like a pretty interesting movie. I'm gonna go check it out. I like this one a lot. I'm gonna give The Vigil an 8 out of 10. The main character is a young man named Yakov, and he does not seem to be particularly strong emotionally or physically, and this isn't just me ragging on him, this actually comes up. I'm pretty sure the implication is that he used to be really devout at one point, but he's sort of backed away from it. So in a way, he's kind of like Damien Karras from The Exorcist. He's only doing the vigil job because he's behind on his rent and he's not employed, so he's doing this to pick up some money. What's weird is that they already hired a person to keep watch. They're called a shomer. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. But he took one look at the body and decided to not do it. It seems like a simple job. He just has to stay in the house and make sure nothing terrible happens for 5 hours. But things start going south right away. One legitimate problem with The Vigil is how terrible the lighting is in a lot of scenes. Like, we're not at sinister level, but we're pretty close. However, despite a lot of scenes being legit just too dark, sometimes lighting is used pretty well. In this apartment that the vigil is happening, there's this kitchen, and the light in the kitchen is almost green colored, and it gives everything a very sickly look. The horror in this movie is okay. I think it relies a little bit too much on jump scares for my liking, but they're not super cheap. For me, the main draw of the vigil is like the character arc that Yakov goes through. He has a lot of fears, a lot of insecurities, he's on meds of some sort, and clearly he's suffering from some past traumatic experience. We learn what it is throughout the movie, but in this situation he needs to face his fears directly. I think I would describe The Vigil as like a combination of The Conjuring, The Exorcist, and The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And I liked all of those movies, so naturally I liked this one. This film was the directorial debut of Keith Thomas, and I'm interested to see what movies he comes up with in the future. I would say check it out, and to really go into detail about why I liked it so much, I'm going to have to talk about some spoilers. The dead body that Yakov needs to watch is one of a Holocaust survivor who has been living in his house as a recluse for many years. He has a wife, and the wife is like going through Alzheimer's and dementia, and both of them are just like shut-ins. Right away, Yakov starts hearing things and seeing things, mostly in the form of like a tall, shadowy figure in the corner. And apparently, this is a monster called a Mazik. It's kind of like a demon that sort of feeds and leeches off of negative feelings, and it had attached to the old man his entire life, basically. And now that he's dead, the demon is looking for someone else to latch onto. Apparently this works by like tethering a person to one location, in this case the apartment, because Yakov does try to leave at one point, but like the further away he gets, it sounds like his bones start breaking. There's a lot of loud bone crunching noises in this movie. And the main event in Yakov's past that the Mazik uses to get in his head is he was like walking, I think it was like Halloween, he was walking with his younger brother, and he got like harassed by a bunch of street thugs. It was kind of a weird scene, and he couldn't do anything to help because he was too weak and scared. And the thugs didn't kill the kid. The kid like ran away and got hit by a car, but either way, he blames himself for doing a lot of sitting back and not being able to help. And it looks like he's going to have the Mazik for the rest of his days, but he found a video in the basement that sort of says, if you can burn its face before the sunrise of the first night, you can get rid of it. So he has to do that, and the scene of him like finally confronting the demon is very well done. It's like the demon is at the other side of the hallway and he's walking up, and behind him the walls start like warping in and out. It's a lot like the effect of Freddy Krueger coming through the headboard, or even the hands going through the walls in Repulsion from yesterday. And one feature of the Mazik is that its head is on backwards. But when he gets close enough, the demon's head turns around and it has his face, and he's able to burn it with a candle. Then the body starts going nuts, like cracking and contorting, and he needs to, I believe, do a prayer in order to calm it down, basically saying, "You've been defeated, leave him alone," and eventually it works. And I really liked the last part of this movie because there was a thing where the guy who set up this job with him was saying, it's like, "Hey, can you come to morning prayers with us tomorrow?" And he's saying, it's like, "I don't really want to." And it wasn't like an immediate switch was flipped where he's like, he became devout again. He said, "I know you mean well, but not today." And when he leaves, it's kind of bittersweet because it's not like his whole life turned around and his trauma got fixed, but it seems like he's in a place where he can move forward. And one touch they added that I thought was very interesting was the last shot of the movie is him leaving the house, and then he goes off screen, and it was focused on him when he was in the foreground. So the entrance to the apartment is in the background and is out of focus. And you see a dark, shadowy figure exit the apartment and walk in some random direction. It didn't look like it was like following him closely, and he's able to leave the house without his bones breaking again. But the implication is that the Mazik is not dead. It's just looking for someone else to take over. The ending was kind of bittersweet. It's not everything perfectly wrapped up, but there's definitely a sense of closure to it. It's sort of like Get Out, where the main character has this past trauma and they need to like overcome that, and that is just as important as overcoming this life-threatening horrible thing happening to them. This was a very satisfying movie. There are some problems here and there, but like the hero's journey that we experience is a real standout. I would recommend watching it if you're interested. Alright, and that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow.